Marie Claire Gorham.
Here. Hi.
John Krischer.
Here.
Susan Murphy.
Here.
Phil Pardue.
Here.
Mary Jo Williams.
Here.
All accounted for. Thank you.
We have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public appearances? Anybody want to speak? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? All right. Let's go to announcements of trustees. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, let's have announcements from the library director, Ashley.
So this morning, it is my pleasure to formally introduce all of you who haven't already met her on the job. Rachel Gaither, our head of reference. So those of you who remember Jean Chapin, she's here with us today to listen in on the library board meeting. The other thing I have to announce is that we are still working on some of our IT issues. I'll have a different report out for all of you in January. And an apology, which is that I was remiss in not putting our standing item on this agenda for our master plan ad hoc committee. There are no reports out from that committee at this time.
Okay. All right. We'll receive a report now from the Carmel Public Foundation. Alex?
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Excited. A few weeks ago, we celebrated a Philanthropy Day by honoring Carol Lee Holland, who's a longtime community member. She was a former CPLF board member, and she continues to be a library supporter. And it was a really great event at Spanish Bay. There were like over 400 people there celebrating all the special community nonprofits. This Friday, we have a library event. So some of you may know that, God bless you, that Carrie's wonderful hotel, Hofs's House, is going through a renovation. And so we decided to continue the tradition, maybe not with the gingerbread houses, but definitely with holidays and kids and families over at the Park Branch Library. So CPLF will be there to support the library, and we're looking forward to seeing all the kiddos and celebrating and keeping this tradition going. It's been going for a long time. Also, I want to make sure all of you have your invitation to our holiday reception, which is at the Cypress Inn. It's on December 14th, and we'd love to see you and your guests, so whomever you'd like to bring. I know I have heard from some of you, so thank you so much. We've had wonderful programs so far this year, local history programs. We had one on carbon. Last month, we invited the first poet laureate, Dr. Ayodele Nzinga, who was really impactful both personally and with her poetry. And it's really exciting to get someone else from a different area who's working on similar things that we work on, which is cultural development. And she's known up there as the community architect or cultural architect because she's helped to rebuild downtown Oakland. So it's really, really nice to have her down here. And next up on January 11th, I hope to see you is When Brains Meet Buildings. So we're continuing on with our theme of architecture, design, and a sense of place as our overall theme this year. And we have a professor who was teaching at MIT, now at USC. I think that, I know he's written several books, over 40 articles, and his most recent interest is how neuroscience intersects with architecture. And so it's going to be really interesting, I think, When Brains Meet Buildings, January 11th. We have the Human Edition, our annual event, Essential Observations in the Accelerated Age of Everything, with Douglas Brinkley and Dave Eggers. Tickets are on sale in Sunset Center, also on our website. Most recently, I was interviewed on the radio with a new radio station, K-Squid. It's based in Santa Cruz, but it's got its tentacles on the Monterey Peninsula. And they used to be the local radio station here before KZoo went NPR. So now they're trying to branch out. And so it was really interesting because right before my interview, they were interviewing the Santa Cruz libraries, the directors there. And come to find out that Dave Eggers, our featured event speaker, is part of their community read. So out of like 4 other authors, including Kazuo Ishiguro, who wrote Claire and the Sun and other like, award-winning authors, his book was chosen, The Monk and the Mocha, I think that one's called. Anyway, we're going to do not a community read, but a book club too, probably with one of Dave Eggers' books, but it's nice that we're kind of on the same page, thinking similarly about these wonderful authors. Let's see what else is happening. Our annual campaign has been launched electronically, through all of our marketing, social media, e-blasts, and then a direct mailer has been sent out. And we have still our Monterey County Gives campaign going as well until December 31st. Any donation that you make will have a match to it, at least between 10 and 20%. So we encourage you all, if you are so inclined. Tax season coming up. Any questions at all? We've been busy. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's approve the minutes for October 25th meeting. Do anybody have any changes? Anything want changed on the minutes?
No, I move we approve the minutes.
Can we have a second for that?
Second.
All right. Could we have a roll call for that one?
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, let's receive the librarian's report for October.
So for the librarian's report, as always, no major changes, but I just want to note that I continue, as part of our ongoing conversation about hard copy materials and ebooks, every month I look at these statistics, compare them pre-pandemic for whatever that means, and look at where we are. So for 2023 October, we're 70% of what we were circulating hard copy material-wise across the board from where we were in 2019. In 2022, we were 56%, which means we had a 26% jump between this year and last year. So, we were able to expand hours in 2020. We were rebuilding that in-person foot traffic audience, and I think we're going to continue to see that increase. With ebooks, we saw a 112% increase between 2023 and 2019 for our ebook usage. But between 2022, October of 2022 and October of 2023, the increase was only 5%. So we're seeing ourselves slow down there, kind of as I've been talking about, but we're seeing the hard copy increase. Whether we'll get back to that complete balance and those same numbers before the pandemic, I'm not sure. I don't think that we'll get all the way to 100%, knowing people's changing behaviors, but I just wanted the board to be aware of that and aware of that 26% increase over a year, which I think is rather impressive for hard copy circulation. So that's my big item of note for the librarian's report for October. And if there's any questions, if anybody noticed anything else that's an anomaly, please ask me the questions.
Anybody have anything? I kind of think it looks that we'll have to keep our funding for hard copy books for next year's budget, keep it up where it's at, and not do any adjustment to that.
Yeah, I think when we do the budgeting this coming spring, we'll look at those calibrations that we do every year, where we look at what our circulation is, what our percentages are, and make sure that our spending matches our usage.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Let's receive the treasurer's report and approve the check register. Mary Jo?
Thanks, John. I don't think there's anything. Well, first I wanted to say that we received a $25,000 donation from the Friends of the Library that came in, so that was great. And I think overall that's the main thing. I just wanted to thank them for that. I think we are doing very well on the budget. If I calculated it right, if we added in what if we were getting the Carmel Library Foundation money every month, which we are not, we'd be about $42,000 up on the budget. So we may need to look at that. There may be some expenses coming in that are not expected yet, but we're doing very well otherwise. Any questions or comments or? Okay.
All right, want to approve the check register?
I move we approve the check register.
Give a second.
Second.
For which dates?
Well, check register.
Right, for the month of.
Oh, for the month
Month of-
of, what is it, October?
October.
October.
I second.
I have a roll call for that, please.
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, for our next item, we're going to consider adoption of our meeting calendar for 2024. Ashley,
So every year at this time, we adopt a meeting calendar for the upcoming calendar year. There are no major anomalies. We, of course, meet the fourth Wednesday of every month, with the exception, of course, of November, December, as we sit here on December 6th at our special meeting. So we'll need to identify probably a combined meeting for November, December. My suggestion would be Wednesday, December the 4th, unless there's major conflicts. The other alternate being Wednesday, December the 11th, and I'll let the board discuss. Sounds great. That maybe December the 4th, and we'll put that on the calendar.
4th sounds good to me.
Seems to work, the
Works for me.
first Wednesday in December. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I think we should make a motion to, somebody should make a motion to adopt the meeting calendar.
Make a motion to adopt the meeting calendar
you.
as presented for 2024 with the exception of combining the November and December meeting to 4 December 2024.
Do I have a second for that?
Go ahead.
I second.
Roll call?
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to our next item. We're going to consider a budget adjustment for the purchase of replacement emergency response supplies and new equipment. Ashley?
So, the library has a very comprehensive emergency response plan. This was started development in 2012, and that was under my watch as local history librarian, and it started out as part of a workshop on preserving cultural heritage items, so making sure that all of our local history department items, art collection, were safe. But it expanded from there to include how to respond to day-to-day situations where staff need to act. So for instance, my first year as library director, we had a suspicious package in the garden of the main library that we had to call the bomb squad in for because we didn't know what it was that was left there. We had a gas leak at the back of the park branch, and we had a trash truck fire outside of the main. And so in all three instances, we had to evacuate the library. And thankfully, we had this plan in place. So we were prepared in the event of those situations to know how to get our patrons out, but also how to converse with emergency personnel. These plans cover pretty much everything. They also identify where our building shutoffs are, water, gas, electric panels. I learned this year about inspector test valves for the fire suppression system, which was fun. We do annual training in both buildings on where all of these things are located, fire extinguishers, first aid kits. In addition, we work with the fire department to have them come through both of our buildings to make sure that they know where these things are, because they're our first responders. So where are our important paintings, cultural things? We have anything of great import that we think we would need to salvage from the building is marked with reflective tape. So if somebody's going through with a flashlight, they can find it. So that we make sure that we're good stewards of the things we have under our care, but we can also, respond in the moment and keep ourselves safe as well as others. In 2013, as part of those efforts, I came to the Board of Trustees and requested a one-time request for funds from the reserves to purchase emergency response materials. This included survival kits, so one for each building that kept 25 people alive for 3 days, and included, crank radios and that type of thing, MREs, all of that, but also lanterns, plastic sheeting, because we know if in a big community-wide incident, we aren't going to have first responders coming in. So what can we do to protect our collections, protect the building? So plastic sheeting, duct tape, twine, all of these types of things that we might need, that we might not be able to get our hands on after an emergency or a disaster has occurred. And the board granted those, of course, and we've had that cash in place. Now, for the survival supplies for the humans, those were out of date. It was a little bit of it was like fun time capsule to open those up. So it's time to replace those, and we have a better plan for making sure that we do those we replace those as part of the regular checks that we do annually going forward, so that we know we have supplies. This last winter was particularly brutal with these storms that we get. This morning it's misting out there, which is lovely and nice and relaxing, a great day to curl up in front of the reading room fireplace with a book. But last year we had terrible storms, and many people were without power for quite some time. Libraries, not just our library, are increasingly becoming a place where they are warming shelters, cooling shelters, a place of refuge, safe havens. Some of them are officially designated as evacuation points, like the Carmel Valley Library, should the county declare a full-on emergency countywide. During the pandemic, as we really worked with our social media, with our newsletter, and we're on the phone with people constantly, we came to be an even more of a resource for people during emergency situations. We did see a couple of bad storms during the pandemic. Our newsletter alone, when we preemptively send out alerts to people saying, hey, it's going to be stormy, come pick up your books, but also be prepared. Here's what we're looking at. See a 70% open rate, which is nuts for newsletters. So, we've become a trusted resource in the community. During storms, we're able to answer phones from wherever we can find power using ONSIP through online. So we get a lot of phone calls asking about the Carmel Youth Center, which is now closed down, which used to be our warming center. And just general questions about, of course, when is the power coming back on? What is the city doing? Do they know about this downed tree? So we can pass that information on to our Public Works Department. So to that end, as we were doing the updates this year to our plan, and of course it's an evolving plan, and it's really key for us to do these updates every single year, whether it's new phone numbers, other types of things that come up. For instance, in 2019, I can tell you we didn't have a section on pandemic, but we do now. So, and all kinds of ways to operate the library during a pandemic are in place. We started talking with our Carmel CERT team. So CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team. They have a container in the north lot of the Sunset Center that has a few generators, sleeping bags, first aid supplies, that type of thing. So we reached out to them to ask if they could store some of our response supplies. And that is because if we can't actually get inside the buildings, but we could do something outside of, we can't get inside the buildings, we could do something outside of them, and we could access those supplies. We could also use them for other things if there were other city departments that were in need or other places. It's a good partnership there. And this in turn led to a very helpful discussion about battery and solar powered generators. While neither one of our library buildings currently have a generator in place to keep the electricity full on in the building, it would be great if we could have battery and solar powered generators so that we could keep, in particular, the park branch, which is one level and has good natural lighting, open to the public, even if we don't have full on power, so that people can come in, have some water. We usually have snacks on hand. To get information, to charge their phones, and to serve that good purpose that we are. We also started talking with the VIPs, which is the Volunteers in Policing. They support us with the community activities things that I do, and they also do regular walkthroughs at both of our library buildings about helping us staff the park branch during an event like this and what that would look like. So we have extra community support. I think that the likelihood of us having bad storms is probably only going to increase into the future, and the better prepared we can be will only serve to help the community. Working with CERT, I'm also helping to plan a Carmel Prepares workshop in January to encourage people to prepare for storms, how they prepare for storms, what they can expect, what the Public Works Department has been working on all fall and winter to mitigate, tree issues and things like that. I think that will be a really good thing for our community to do. So this is, again, kind of not quite a test. I think we've tested the library's mettle in terms of being able to serve the community during an emergency situation. But with the generators, this will be a little bit of new territory for us. In addition to a large generator for the park branch, just keeping a small generator at the main library will also be helpful. That building is more challenging because of all of the levels and the public restrooms being down in the basement and the lighting there. But the more that we can do to be prepared as a staff so that we can make sure that we're safe, our buildings are safe, and the community is safe, the better. And I am available for any questions about the specifics of the requested replacements that are there in the staff report in detail. And that is my staff report.
Any questions from the board?
So are we going to be asked to approve this today or consider it today?
I usually start off with consider.
Okay.
The recommendation is to approve the budget adjustment, and Mary Jo mentioned earlier that we are under budget in certain areas, and I did specifically request that this come out of reserves at this time, which I detailed in the funding section of this. The under budget is due to some underspending in terms of equipment, which we will be doing at the start of the new year, and that's for iPads and computers for the catalog stations, as well as some desks and things like that that need replacing. We still have budget adjustments to go through, formal budget adjustments to go through in January, and those are the line item budget adjustments, and mostly they're to do with hard copy materials and programs. So I don't want to dip into any of that, so that's why I request that this comes from reserves.
So the question, that I would have is, okay, so I get the solar generators and things like that, but you start talking about a large generator. What size is the large generator, the small generator? What type of fuel you're going to use? How are you going to store the fuel? Because it becomes a problem with the fire department if it's gasoline.
So these are battery operated generators. We're not dealing with gasoline.
Okay,
We're
so
not,
these are all battery.
These are all battery. These would be charged up, and the size of them depends on how long the charge will last. If, as you've seen, like for instance, I think the March storm, I remember it was hideously stormy for a bit and the sun came out again and it was just terribly windy. So we have options with the additional solar panels. So for the large generator, fully charged, fully loaded, is 3 days of people charging their phones and using computers versus, 1 day or half day for small.
Okay, and when you looked at the generator large and the solar panel large, it's figured out, how big a generator you're going to get, how many watts it goes, how many hours of sunshine you need to get
Exactly.
it.
Yes.
Okay, so and how long will it take to recharge? About 4 or 5 hours or 2 days? Or?
Well, I don't have that specific in my head right now, but we will, again, with the news, we'll know how and when we can start to get this equipment ready and make sure that it's charged up before we're expecting an event.
Well, sometimes the events last for days.
Yes.
And then you're left with, I need to recharge. And you may have limited periods of sunrise. So if you don't want to, if you're going to do this, you don't want to get the smallest solar panel that'll charge in 12 hours. You want one that'll charge maybe in 4 hours. So if you get a brief sun, you can
Yes, we will get the one that is the most efficient with the shortest charging time. Again, this is kind of an experiment with this. We're not full on, laying into a generator that would be powered by natural gas that would keep us going forever and ever. This is an interim measure. I know that the city has looked into that for both of our library buildings, and it's been cost prohibitive in the past. But this is an interim measure, and to help us, serve the community, and we'll pick the generator that will be the easiest for us to use and maximize our potential for,
Okay, and these would be stored in the buildings and not in this north parking lot down at the Sunset Center?
they would be stored in the buildings, yes.
Okay.
And there may be a time where we shift them, or I'll report out to the board if there's some reason that we decide to change that methodology, but yes.
So I see some kind of crisis happening in the city, and well-meaning people going out and doing the right thing, and they open up that shed out there in the north parking lot, and everything goes, and you go in there and say, all right, it's time to set up our
Right.
charging station, and everything's gone.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
for the community writ large,
Right.
to do the right thing, but it's not there for you to do your part of the right thing. So,
Right. So
okay.
the generators, I envision being stationed in the buildings. That being said, there's very limited access to that container. It's the CERT's container, so Community Emergency Response. So I'm not worried about them walking off.
Okay.
In our partnership with CERT. And again, I'm looking forward to working with them more closely as we further develop our relationship and work together, because I think that there are other opportunities with their reach and what they do to serve the community. But that's not a worry of mine at all.
Right. Then the last thing I'd think about as I did this was those things are pretty darn heavy. When
Yes.
you're talking about batteries, so making sure that you've figured out a location so that you can.
We have number one, librarians are very strong with all the books that we lift, but also, we have dollies and all different types of things and ways that we move things around the libraries in general, so this won't be a particular hardship for us.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions about budget. First of all, will the city finance any of this? And second, do we have enough money to cover it?
So first answer is no, not at this
That's what I
time.
figured.
Second answer is yes, we have plenty of money to fund this.
Okay.
Absolutely.
My other question is, and I've brought this up before, we need to have Narcan if we don't have it already in our first aid kit, and for emergencies. If we do have, people do have to use the library for emergencies, you never know.
We do have Narcan.
Okay, good. And what was my other question? I had another one, but I'm sorry. Those were my questions anyway. Oh, I know. As far as the food goes, I know the school that I used to teach at, we changed off the food about every year and just donated. Can we do that, or is it too old?
We're not with this last cache of. They were graham crackers. Leslie was there. It was the hardest brick of food-ish thing that you've ever seen.
So you might want
no,
to think about once a year switching it out.
that's exactly
Yeah.
what we're going to do, Susan. We're going to make sure that we have things on hand that we know people will like to eat, but that will be donatable, and that we can include in our regular sweep as we replace batteries and flashlights and do all of those types of things.
That's what I want to know.
Mary Jo, do you have anything?
I just was curious, do you have an AED in libraries?
We have AEDs in both library buildings, yes. We just got brand new ones through Montage. It was a grant that the Carmel Police Department got.
Great, thanks.
Mary Claire? No. Okay. Only thing I have to say is I'm all for it, but I spoke to Ashley before. I want some kind of a sign there that this generators are being supplied by donations from the Carmel Public Foundation and the Friends of the Library. That this is from the library itself, supported by, that gives kudos to the foundation, which helps us out, and that we're trying to help the community. So that's my aspect. I want to make sure the credit goes to the right people for this.
Yeah.
That we're doing the right thing, and we should make the supplies a budget item every year in the budget. If we have to supply them every year, it would be a slight budget item. But that's,
People seem really surprised when I tell them at the, at the book, when I sell books at the market, that the city only doesn't supply all our money. And that needs to go out to the public.
that's-
We need to know that. They need to know that.
Yeah,
Because that's a real, I get that question, I include that in my spiel, but, maintenance and salaries are part of it, but we also have a lot of other expenses.
Yes, I will make sure that that is clear and we find some labeling for the generator. I know when the city had Measure D, they would put up signs when projects were being worked on that said that that's where the tax dollars were coming from, and we'll do the same with our generators and make that clear. Mm-hmm.
do we need a motion to pass this, or?
Yes, we do. A motion to approve just read the
Okay,
recommendation verbatim.
right, let me find it here. I can find it. Here we go. Yeah, I make a motion to approve the budget adjustment for the purchase of replacement emergency response supplies and new equipment.
I second it.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to our last item now. That's consider the amendment for the gathering place.
Oh, I know.
So we have just a small amendment to the gathering place policy. This was last reviewed and updated in March of 2022 when we began to expand our hours after the pandemic. And the policy has, been put through its paces at this point in time. And the request that I have in terms of changing the policy up would be to limit the maximum amount of time in advance that the room can be reserved. We had it stated at 1 year, and the recommendation is to only allow 3 months worth of reservations out rather than that full year. And that will prevent it from being monopolized by one group in perpetuity going forward and keep days and times open for groups. I mean, we love our regular groups that have been using it, but at the same time, we can see it getting out of control. So that is my recommendation for this policy amendment at this time, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes. Would those groups that have reserved it for a year be notified? I assume they would be.
Yes, they would be.
Okay. I know that.
I just have a question. I'm not sure if it solves your problem. I mean, what would stop that same group for just, automatically submitting a request? How would you decide which group would get it at what time if it wasn't that group? Does that make sense?
So what it does is if you can only make 3 months worth of reservations, if somebody comes in the interim and says, oh, hey, I want to make after that 3 month end for that, let's say September, like a group makes it, July, August, September, they have their reservations at that time. And somebody comes in August and says, I want to reserve the room in October for that same exact time, that allows it to be free during that time so they can do it. So it's not, that group doesn't have ownership of the room for that day and time forever and ever and ever.
They could just reserve it every month, or, I'm not arguing.
No.
I'm concerned.
And
We're trying to solve a problem that this won't particularly solve, because you're still going to have people competing for the same time slot potentially.
right, and that
How do you decide who gets it? If it's just first come, first served, they're just going to become very adept at getting their requests in early.
And that is the tricky thing about all library policies, is accounting for that type of thing. So it's not a perfect solve for the problem, but we would like to try it out.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
It is, yes. Rather than have, you can only do it meeting by meeting, it doesn't work that way for some groups, and they need some assurance that they have it, a room and a place for some amount of time, but a year is a huge length of time. So we'd like to try this, and it may be that we do this and I come back to you, in 3 months or a year and say, actually, this didn't work and we want to change it this way. So
Alex,
this
do
is
you
an
have anything
amendment.
to add to this? Because I know the Library Foundation uses that room once a month, pretty much.
This year, our board has grown to the point where we have to move it back to Sunset Center, but I
We talk into the microphone. Sorry,
Yeah.
Alex. Thank you. Sorry.
That's why I asked about it.
I was listening. So I wanted to process the rationale behind it, but also at the same time, when I think about some of the reason, you know, our raison d'etre for this room, it was to provide, or is to provide, a free meeting space. And a lot of the groups, like city groups and nonprofit groups, have regular meetings. So I'm not sure. I just want to, I guess I'm thinking about it like, how does it continue then to serve those people who have the ongoing meetings, which is really one of the reasons we built the room in the first place, so that we didn't have to struggle every month and have to use, you know, our accountant's conference center, or, you know, or these types of things. And when I say us as CPLF, I'm also referring to city meetings and other meetings that are ongoing and regular meetings, which gives a lot of peace of mind and ease to know that we have a space that we don't have to. For example, our Board of Trustees CPLF meetings, we have those regularly scheduled every month that we like to go, you know, for the year without having to also incorporate like another place to meet.
Well, I think the other thing that the 3-month thing does, which I find helpful, is, you know, sometimes you schedule these year-long meetings out, but things change, especially around the holidays like now. And then you forget to tell whoever has booked the room for you that you don't need it anymore, or whatever's happened, and that room is booked and no longer available for a different group, or we've got it reserved so the people that have walked in and they're, you know, just want to use the library to do their work or a Zoom call or whatever, they can't use the space now because library staff are restricting access to it because we're waiting for a group to arrive that never shows up. So I think the 3-month thing actually serves as a good check-in point too for groups to say, hey, are you sure these are going to be your meeting dates? Are you still on board with this? And I'd like to try it for that reason too. Because I know, I mean, we've changed our meeting dates and times for the CPLF Board of Trustees meetings, and I'm sure I've forgotten to cancel our reservations for the gathering place. So I think that 3-month period is a good reminder for people to go, oh, actually, we're canceling this meeting. I should tell the library, rather than it's just set in stone for the full year.
I
Who's
suppose-
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say, I suppose too, if you review your if you review the schedule and then you see, let's say, if there are some book clubs. I mean, I guess I like to look at that space as like an assurance or some kind of comfort to those groups that are meeting there, and like what we are trying to build with that space is more
Right.
community. So, but I understand what you're saying as well. We don't want to leave the space open, and I think it's a good check-in.
Or keep it closed,
But,
yeah. I think that the 3-month, the period will serve us well to try this out as, you know, an amendment to the policy. And again, I can bring it back. The policies are really good guiding principles and rules for us, but there's a reason why we review them, you know, every few years to make sure that they're still serving us and the public well and work for us.
Thank you.
Does anybody in the public have anything to say? Please,
Yes, please.
speak.
So I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have in the policy that if things can be bumped for staff business, and that is also inclusive. It also says for city meetings and for our foundation. So you're all on par with the staff. So that's not the public that we're thinking of in regards to making sure that they're, you know, not monopolizing the room.
And I will say that city groups and our groups aren't monopolizing the room either, but it just is, it helps us find a balance, especially if there's an emergency reason we need this for recruitments or something like that.
So who's complaining?
We've had some groups, not complaining from the groups, but just some issues that have come up with staff and scheduling for the rooms, and concerns about groups wanting to have things set in stone for long periods of time. So that's why this came forward at this point in time.
And so are groups coming in and saying that they'd like the room and it's empty, but they can't use it because they're waiting for somebody to come in? Has that been some of the issues, or
That
just trying to figure out what problem we're trying to solve? Is it goes.
Right. And again, it's just that scheduling, making sure that groups have equal opportunity to the room. There have been not problematic issues of groups not showing up, but that has happened. I mean, that this is the world and humans are humans. Not to the point of being problematic with certain groups or a group in particular. But I think that this is a good change to the policy in terms of scheduling for us.
Okay, and so just one last question. So talked about the library staff and the foundation. And the Board of Trustees meetings that y'all have, if you know that's going to happen the same time every year, do the current rules allow you to block that off so you don't have to remember at 12:01 a.m. 3 months out? And the other question is you can't reserve it more than 3 months out. Do all the dates on April open on the same day, or does the first open on the first, the second on the second? I mean, how are you going to handle that going forward?
Good question. So I would handle it for, so the way I've been envisioning this is I've been talking with the staff about it is, you'd come to me, let's say April 1st and say, I want to book out my dates for April, May, and June. And then you'd come to me, let's say June 1 and say, I want to book it out for July, August, September, and the 3 months after that. Does that make sense? So it gives you enough.
So they open up in 3-month blocks or in monthly blocks?
3-month blocks. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm envisioning with our system.
Okay, we need to write that in there.
Okay.
As you go, because you look at it, I'm very familiar with the national parks opening up, trying to get in and how they roll it open, and it's a block, a month block, on a certain date, and then everybody's in there at 12:01 in Central Standard Time.
Right.
Because you have to put that in there, and so but if nobody's complaining, then you don't have to be as strict with the rules. But if it's becoming an issue within the community, then
we will roll that out and be more detailed about blocks.
I recommend you codify how you're thinking about opening those blocks up
and what that means.
And what that means in there, and then how if under the foundation and the library staff, and maybe it includes book clubs. I mean, I don't know if there's a special, if there are things that accrue to the library that the Gathering Place was supposed to do, like book clubs and things like that. Can they?
Is there some sort of tiered system for who has?
Right. To try to meet all, things that are in direct interest to the library, first preference, the some other ad hoc group that
that comes
restoring
up, yes.
motor cars, for the lack of a better word, or something. The sailing club.
We have all kinds of groups. So I'd like to bring this back then with some additional clarification of language for the next meeting.
We table it and bring it back up in January.
Very good.
And if you're looking for flexibility for if you end up with a tiered system and you're coming out with like the sailing club wants to do something, they're going to like it with the 3-month increments because they get locked down, but it may be at the detriment of somebody else who wants that time,
Right. As I say, there's no perfect system that will meet every single person's needs for this. We're just trying to find a balance. But thank you. This was good direction, and I will bring something back in January with clarifying language regarding how we release the time, whether it's a block system, and if there is a tiered system for who can reserve when and all of those types of things.
Is there a cancellation clause in the policy? Is there anything about that?
I think we have some language in here actually about for no-shows, if you don't show up.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think
you need to let
recommend
us
doing it
know.
in 5 minutes. If you can't make it in 5 minutes, you lose the room. Yeah, I mean, if it's open, you can still use it, but other people can get in there.
Right, exactly.
When you bring it back, could we make it like a 6-month trial to see how it works out?
Absolutely, we can.
I mean, because we could do 6 months, we could see if we have issues, then we go back and change the policy. Because it was donated for a certain purpose, we don't want to really destroy the people who, I want to make sure everybody is taken care of and everybody's happy is what I'm looking at. And a 6-month trial period, and if we have a lot of issues with that, with people, we can maybe tweak it again to something better.
I think 6 months sounds good.
That sounds very good.
Yeah, if you release it in 3-month blocks, that means you have one option. You do it the first time, and then it opens up for 1 3-month block, so you may not learn enough. You know, depending on how you do it, if you release them monthly, within 6 months, you'll have a lot of information.
Yeah.
If you release them in 3-block sections,
Right.
you will end up having 2 data points.
2 of the 6 months, yes.
So, and do you think that that's enough? I mean, if you think that's enough information for then to make a decision on what to do after that, that's great. Otherwise,
Yes.
may need to lengthen it.
Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments on this? Okay, then we'll table it and bring it back next month.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Do we have any other future agenda items that people want to bring up for next meeting? All right, I guess we can adjourn then. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.